To his credit, Donald Trump did acknowledge that today is International Women's Day. He sent out a pair of tweets. He said this: on International Women's Day, join me in honoring the critical role of women here in America and around the world. That's a very good tweet there. He also said this: I have tremendous respect for women and the many roles they serve that are vital to the fabric of our society and our economy, which is the right thing for him to say. Now, granted, he didn't acknowledge, as far as I've seen in any place, a day without women, but he's acknowledging International Women's Day, which is more than I would have expected from him. But he brought up the respect thing. And it's one thing, it's a good thing to say you have respect for women. It's another thing, a harder thing to actually live your life that way. And so Jared Jackson put together a few of his greatest hits in him demonstrating the level of respect that he actually has for women. And we're gonna watch it now.
Pregnancy is never, it's a wonderful thing for the woman, it's a wonderful thing for the husband. It's certainly an inconvenience for a business.
You know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody.
She's a disgusting pig, right?
Bimbo?
Well, there was a retweet. Yeah, did I say that?
Many times.
Ooh, okay. Excuse me.
Nobody.
I mean,
not the most horrible thing, you know, again, politically, not the most. Over your life, Megan, you've been called a lot worse. Is that right? Wouldn't you say?
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody.
And he went after me on the plane. Yeah, I'm going to go after. Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you. Man.
Nobody.
You don't know. That would not be my first choice.
I better use some Tic-Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss.
Nobody.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
And all of the men, we're petrified to speak to women anymore. We may raise our voice. You know what? The women get it better than we do, folks. All right? They get it better than we do.
You know, I don't want to sound too much like a chauvinist, but when I come home and dinner's not ready, I go through the roof, okay?
She was the winner, and you know, she gained a massive amount of weight, and it was a real problem.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do.
Not only that, her attitude, and we had a real problem with her.
Man, J.R. Jackson, best senior producer in the business. You know who's better? Nobody.
That was a good job. And look, that's just a little sampling of the video. Let's quickly go through some of his tweets. I mean, this was actually in the video. He retweeted this: Fox viewers give low marks to bimbo Megyn Kelly. Will consider the programs. And he just kept retweeting anytime somebody called her a bimbo. And then when called on it, and she was super like, oh, like, hey, you call me a bimbo, maybe that's a little bit messed up. He's like, oh, you've been called worse, I bet. He said this: Ariana Huffington is unattractive both inside and out. I fully understand why her former husband left her for a man. He made a good decision. Because she's so unattractive to him that she creates gay men. That's what he thinks about this woman. If Hillary Clinton can't satisfy her husband, what makes her think she can satisfy America?
Oh my God.
That wasn't 3 years ago when he was a young man of 66. That was during the campaign. He said this about sexual assaults in the military: very understanding, very compassionate. 26,000 unreported sexual assaults in the military, only 238 convictions. What did these geniuses expect when they put men and women together? Well, obviously they're gonna get raped. Why are people acting surprised? Let's see, he said this, talking about his own daughter. Yeah, she's really something, and what a beauty, that one. If I weren't happily married and, you know, her father.
Oy.
That was 2 years ago, sorry, it was 2015. He said many things like that. He also said this, asked about women by New York Magazine. He said, you have to treat them like shit.
And nobody's got more respect for women than he does. Nobody.
You can't find anyone with more respect than those things you have to treat like shit.
Believe me, nobody's got more respect, especially when he does this.
I moved on her like a bitch.
But to be fair, I think there he's calling himself a bitch, but I'm not sure.
That's right, which is such a 40-year-old virgin move. Like, what does that mean? I moved on her like a bitch. Okay, there are hundreds of tweets that are brilliant. I just want to mention 3 others real quick. One is some guy tweeted him grabbing the Statue of Liberty. by the genitals, and I was like, oh no, I can't unsee that. I can't, so I didn't want to subject you to that, but it was a little bit brilliant. And then there's I know there's dozens of these, but here's one on Bette Midler. While Bette Midler is an extremely unattractive woman, I refuse to say that because I always insist on being politically correct.
What's the problem with that? He didn't say it.
No,
he refused.
He literally does the thing I do kidding. Like when I kid around and go, I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He says it for real. Like, I'm not saying Bette Midler is extremely unattractive, except for the fact that I just did. But I'm not saying it because that would be politically incorrect.
Yeah, and I think about, like, especially today, this day of huge mass activism by women and their allies across the country. I mean, like, there's a lot of great role models, which is awesome, and there's a reason role models are so powerful is because young people in whichever group, in this case women, can look up to that, and it can get them to feel comfortable, like acting in a certain way, going into a certain role or career that they might not otherwise. But we'll never know, having a president who so clearly disdains women and believes that there's extremely limited roles for them in society. Maybe if they're a close blood relative, his favorite daughter, he'll treat them acceptably.
And attractive.
And attractive. He'll still sexualize them, but at least he'll treat them nicely and let them be involved in the business. But otherwise, so dismissive and insulting. Imagine growing up as a young woman and hearing that coming out of the president. That has got to have a negative impact.
And finally, I know it's a random one, but I had forgotten it, and it just gives you a sense of how cheap and ugly he is. In that famous tape on the bus, he also talked about how he tried to basically buy off a married woman by buying her furniture. And so Matthew Dix is one of the guys who tweeted about it. He's like, oh, so how will you be honoring women today, Donald? Buying married women furniture in hopes of having sex with them, perhaps? And that's the one that he moved on like a bitch and refuses advances, even though she could have gotten furniture out of it.
She could have gotten a couch?
Yeah, or maybe a
short-sighted.
You know, a nice leather recliner or something. But the reason I tell you that one is because that's how he sees women. You just buy them. If they're attractive enough, you try to buy them because that's what they're for. And if they're not attractive, well, then they're good for nothing, not even business. So it's okay to think women are attractive. We're all sexual creatures, and it's okay for women to think guys are attractive, yada, yada. But you've got to be able to separate out that there are other facets to human beings.
Yes.
And certainly in the context of work, you can't mix those two things unless you're a really bad guy who doesn't respect women at all.
If you like this interview, become a member of the Young Turks, and you get the interviews before anyone else does. You get to watch them live. TYTnetwork.com/join.